Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. We are happy to have you here today. My name is Kelly, and I'm being joined by Peter and David. You can find us at unfilteredvetdiscussions.com, as well as all the popular social media platforms. Choose your favorite. You're probably already on one, two, or three, or four, as well as podcast channels if you're already listening to us. We look forward to hearing from you. Today's topic is because normally, like how we work these conversations is we get together and chit chat, and then we muse, and then we think about the topics. And so, the topic we want to talk today is, are you a reader? And that came out of a trip I took last week to Washington, D.C. And when I go on trips, I personally am a reader. I like books. I have my own personal library of paper books, which is kind of a rare thing these days. But I like going to secondhand bookstores. I feel it's a treasure hunt to kind of, broaden my own personal library. And while I was cruising through my favorite section to see if there was any gems or hidden gems to find, I overheard a conversation between two young ladies that were coming back to DC for college. And one girl asked the other young lady and said, "Are you a reader?" And my ears perked up. And the other young lady sighed and said, "I wish I was a reader. I would like to be known as a person who reads." And I just was like, I was just chuckling to myself while I was hearing this because I'm like, really? That's where we've gotten to today? Is you want to be known as a person who is a reader, aka who reads books, not like blog posts or social media, headlines, but an actual person who sits down with a book and reads. And that is such a different environment these days of, are you a reader? And then to just piggyback on that even more before I throw it over to David and Peter is my daughter's going to college this fall, and we had a choice to buy books in paper format, to rent the book and return it, or buy it in digital format. And my daughter's like, I want digital. Why would I want a paper book? Like, why would I ever want to hold it? And being raised in the generation before the option of PDF, you of course wanted paper. You wanted to highlight it, you wanted to take notes, you wanted to do whatever you can. So, where are we going, gentlemen, with being a reader or not a reader?
Well, you've got you've got over David's right shoulder a book that he wrote. Okay. If I were to unblur my background, which I will do, you will see the books that are on the shelves behind me,
A few
including
books.
a couple of mine that are back there. And there's another bookshelf, similar height on the other wall. Since I was a child, have been a reader, and I think my generation, which is a little bit older than David's generation, maybe about the same as Kelly's, we all came up with reading books. The Scarlet Letter, um, Great Gatsby. And God, I hated English, but you had to read. I don't know why I read Shakespeare because it made absolutely no sense, but you read it.
Mhm. You
And
took a
so I
whole
think that,
class on it.
yes, and
Yes.
I think what we have seen, and I have the statistics because I pulled them up. Reading has dropped dramatically. The average American spends only 19 minutes a day reading. Um, and so, and it the older you are, the more you read.
Mhm.
And we've seen it now. I'm going to include what I call reading, which is audible, listening to books,
Yeah.
as well as reading books. So right now, I have a book on Audible that I'm listening to, which is How to Say No. I have to read it a couple of times. Um, I'm reading a book from Janine Driver, who was at the AVMA conference as a guest of Rob Best, and she is a negotiator government-based negotiator with some of the agencies there, and she's teaching tricks on reading body language. And I have another book that I'm reading by Bud Schlossberg, who is a prize fight writer. He wrote about all of the different things in prize fighting going back to the 20s and 30s, and he writes at them at a a very high, a Hemingway-like level.
Hmm.
So it's not just reporting on the fights, but it's reporting on the backstories and the stories behind the backstories. So three things going on at the same time. How do I keep track of what's going on? I don't have a clue. But you read them at different places and at different times. And and I read mostly on Kindles or my iPad, um, because it's much easier for old eyes to read with backlit books.
Yeah, I think
So
we go through phases. Growing up, I was an avid reader and of many different types, and post-college as well. I always had traveled with books, and I traveled a lot for the first 5, 7 years. Every 3 to 6 months, I was living somewhere else doing a different field biology project or Forest Service, and just read all the time. I have a lot of books in my home study that I'm going to read. But the last 19 years, reading has fallen off. I did read, the last one on my iPad was War and Peace, and then Shackleton's The Endurance, all built.
Yeah. So
I
you
had to
don't
read
go.
it before I put the Lego kit together. But, when I get home, I only have so much time. I want to spend it with the boys and Susan. So, not a lot of reading time. But now, like yours, we're heading to college next week with the boys, so I'm gaining some time. I think that my book list is coming back. But there's, for me, and I think for you all as well, and many readers enjoy the process of reading, enjoy the escape, focusing on what's in front of you, which is no different than immersing yourself on a disc golf course or back when I used to ride my motorcycle, doing something that you can only do one thing and everything else falls off to the side. Reading fits that. And I think a lot of folks just don't get that. The boys pretty much stopped reading when they got their phone, other than what they had to read in high school, the Shakespeare, the Gatsbys, and that sort of thing. My hope is that it comes back around, but I think so many people these days are not accustomed to being alone with themselves or sitting with a text, an audio. When I drove, I used to listen to a lot of books on tape or books on CD. My current car doesn't have a CD player, so I'm out of luck there. And I could download and whatnot. But anytime folks are alone, they instantly whip up that personal distraction device. And I see that with the boys. I see it at home, all three of them. And even when I'm out and about at a restaurant, somebody by themselves or somebody walking, waiting for a bus, they can't just be. Um, And I think that's, yeah, taking away from the opportunity to read for sure. I'm
Well,
looking forward to getting back into it.
I bet you are. And, your light reading is War and Peace. Hello. Like, goodness.
That
Like,
actually, I did enjoy. It took a long time because
yeah,
I
I
would read it
sure
at
did.
night.
But
Um,
So,
that's,
David, did you read War and Peace while waiting to see the veterinarians with your cats? Because you could probably finish reading that in the lobby at at the veterinary hospital.
yeah, yeah, really. But
so
and then I
going,
found a website that had, because I like science fiction,
Mhm.
right? One, I've done a lot of those, and but I found a website that had the original science fiction magazine.
Oh, I
So I
like
read
those.
Fahrenheit
451,
457,
451.
451,
Ray
Ray
Bradbury.
Bradbury's.
Mhm.
It was originally published in that magazine. And I read the original, and now I lost that website. I need to find it again. But 1950s sci-fi, you could sit and read. That was fun to read too.
So going back to my trip and your comment, So in Washington, D.C., I like being on that city either on my feet or on the subway, or we also rode Lime scooters, and those were really fun. But on the subway, when I lived in D.C. back in the day, I was going to college there, we didn't have devices. We had
Hmm.
computer labs, but those were not mobile in any sense of the stretch of imagination. And I was sitting and not being on my device because head on a swivel type of thing, public transportation. I don't feel like you should tune out on public transportation. Um, how many people were on their devices? And it just made me think, well, what did I used to do when I was living there? And because we didn't have those devices. And I'm like, I think we just sat a lot and just thought, like you were saying, David, just like quiet time. Or
Yeah.
maybe you would have a paperback book somewhere that tucked away that you wanted to read, or the newspaper, the little physical paper newspaper. But boy, you didn't see a single one of those on the subway this time around. You saw devices.
Well, and okay, let's suggest that there are some people who do read books on their
On
phone.
device. Yeah.
So, because Sharon does, and
Mhm.
I don't know why, because she's got a laptop, she's got an iPad, but she does read them on her phone. So let's give him a partial credit for that. But I would agree, statistically, the number of readers that are out there reading, especially for pleasure, has decreased dramatically. Normally, I read for pleasure before I go to bed,
Mhm.
um,
Same.
because it takes me away from everything that I've been dealing with throughout the day. I listen to an audiobook when I walk the dog, so that's 35 minutes twice a day. And when I'm at the gym doing cardio, if I'm on a bike or Stairmaster, whatever the case may be, I will read a book while I'm at the gym. So I'm an introvert because I'm by myself at the gym and I'm on a walk. So I fill that space, which normally would be me overthinking everything that went wrong throughout the day, even when everything went right, with a distraction. And I think reading novels just before bedtime, especially since I like the John Grisham, Robin Cook, the murder mystery, James Patterson. Um, it's probably the worst thing to read before you go to bed, because you get into bed thinking you can solve the murder in the next 6 hours of sleep, only to find out that they have a twist in the last 18 pages.
Yeah.
But that to me is, and I actually read magazines as well. Um, big reader of Rolling Stone, because I like to keep up with the music industry. I live vicariously through things that I can't do,
Yeah.
from that standpoint. But I think there's something when I speak, I talk about that leaders are readers, and that if you take a look at Bill Gates' top 10 books, um, Obama's top 10 books, these guys who are leaders have constantly, Warren Buffett constantly filled themselves with new information. And I think those books that are curated by those individuals from a leadership standpoint are great resources to tap into as well if you're trying to figure out what to read next.
hmm Or the New York Times bestseller list too. I mean, there's all sorts of things, right? In
Yeah. It's
Amazon.
interesting that it's just kind of jumping in, talking over you, but
Oh,
fewer people might be reading, but there's more books than ever because everybody can publish.
yeah.
Everyone's self-published, and there's so much more content out there. Uh,
Have you
Yeah,
guys looked on Amazon bestseller lists? And they do it by genre, and then it does, like, I'm like you, David. I do science fiction like person, but now they have science fiction subcategories on Amazon. So whatever your genre is, you can go into Amazon and just put in the search like bestseller list science fiction, and it will give you all these subcategories too. And then they'll tell you the top 50 books and then the top 50 new releases. So it's just all the top 50, but then the new releases, top
mhm.
50, right? And that helps either find your favorite authors, kind of new thing, but um,
your kids were a little bit younger than mine, but I remember, especially with my oldest, at bedtime reading Harry
Yeah.
Potter out
Mhm.
loud to her um, till we both fell asleep, usually me before her. Um, but I think you start to do that and you now start to set a foundation for them that books are important.
Hmm.
And we force, quote unquote, force students to read, not necessarily books of interest, but books that are foundational, the same books that we read. What was hard actually for the kids is when they were asked to read a book of their choice and do a book report of some sort. So my kids are out of the house, they're on their own, and I'm cleaning things up. And there are all of these books from high school, which are dog-eared, annotated notes in because they had to do that. And we never did that when we were in school. We treated books
Right.
like they were gold, but now they're annotated, and so trying to bring those to a used bookstore to sell is impossible. So they end up at Goodwill. But the environment has changed because, as you said, David, there is so much out there. We
Mhm.
are glutted with information and starved of knowledge.
That's quite the
Well
statement.
said. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
there's,
that's a wrap.
do you guys know? Because I also went to the Library of Congress and I haven't had a chance to look this up. But I remember, my undergrad was George Washington University, which was like 5 blocks from the White House. That's where I finished up school. And I distinctly remember when I went there before the internet that my professor said there's absolutely no reason that you can't find any information on the subjects that I'm asking you to write about because the Library of Congress is down the street. And you can go there at any time and walk in there. And you can't actually walk into the hub chamber anymore without a special pass, or you can go into the beautiful antechamber. But I just remember walking in, sitting down at a library desk and asking people where's the information. But the Library of Congress used to hold a copy of every single book ever published. I don't know if it still does that or a digital copy.
That's a good question. I don't know. If it has a Library of Congress number, then I think it's there. But I don't know that everything gets that number that used to be on the inside cover or first page or so.
Right? Like self-publishers may not have that option. But
Mhm.
it's just astounding that all that knowledge from all the books that were ever published were in one place called the Library of Congress, right? Um,
I thought they were all in the library where the Book of Kells is in Trinity College in Dublin. Because if you look at all the books that are there,
well,
Yeah.
does that do the same thing, Peter? Because that's one of the most beautiful libraries in the world.
yeah.
Not that I don't follow like the top 1,000 libraries or anything, because I'm such into books, but just saying if I was, Kells is beautiful, going to go someday, but I don't know what they hold.
No, it holds a lot of books, but it doesn't hold all of the books published in Ireland from that standpoint. My dad's office, so I grew up in New York, as you may or may not remember or know, but I grew up in New York, and my dad's office was in New York City, 501 Fifth Avenue, right across the street from the New York Public Library, with the
Oh,
two
neat.
lions in front and everything
Yeah.
else. So talk about an intimidating place to go when you're a little kid is the New York freaking Public Library. It's kind of like Library of Congress. It's like you walk in and it's like, OMG. And so,
Yeah.
and I don't know, growing up, we used to go to the library to study and to take books out of the library. And I just, the whole library system has changed because of digitalization of things as well. I mean, I can't tell you how many records I took out of the library and put onto cassettes because I didn't have to buy them. Okay, arrest me now. I guess I was my own Napster back then.
Yeah.
Um, but it's where, and this goes to the question that we talked about before. we got on, which is where are people going for their news? Where are people going for their information? And a lot of it is digital resources and not books, not even
Hmm.
newspapers any longer. I mean, the newspaper that we get in the morning here, the Orange County newspaper, would barely cover the bottom of a birdcage.
Wow.
And I'm sure you're in a relatively small community as well, David. I'm sure your newspaper is lucky if it's got 30 pages in it.
Oh, it's lucky if it's got 12.
Yeah.
I think it used to be big, but
Yeah.
yeah, now everything's online and niche news sources instead of independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we undo the damage that social media has done?
I'm not
If
sure.
it's social, I mean, let's not blame it on social media because there are generational differences as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, you know, David, you probably encouraged your kids at times when they were discouraged to read. Kelly, I'm 100% certain you did the same. What do we do to help carry this forward to the next generation? Both my girls, who are now late 20s, early 30s, are still readers. They don't read, they read some novels, they read some suggested books. My oldest, who's in business, tends to read a lot of business related books and the like. And Brooke tends, as a veterinarian, tends to read things that are more novel-esque or novel-like, just to get her brain away from
Yeah.
constantly being embedded in healthcare. But how do we help the next generation understand the importance of taking in curated information?
I think we sit down and read with them.
Yeah.
Literally, like, as our
Family book club.
and yeah, as our children have children, we sit down and read with them, right? Or volunteer our time, create a book club, something. But
There are some veterinary book clubs that groups that meet and read books. I know Kimba Marshall and Mia Carey have got one going.
Oh,
And
nice.
I thought there was a veterinary leadership book club that was out there. So I'm going to challenge the 27 listeners that we have. Um, if you know of veterinary related book clubs that we can help promote through this organization, um, put them in the chat on any of the different platforms or send an email to
That'd be
us
great.
through the website or comments, because I think it would be good to have a central curation of the veterinary specific book clubs, and maybe they're medical, maybe they're about other issues, but I think it would be good to have something like that somewhere centralized.
Yeah. It's a
great.
great idea. Look forward to seeing the comments.
I do too. And I think we'll leave it there today.
All right,
Yeah. Well, thank you,
great.
everybody. And if you have a favorite book too, besides book clubs, and you just want to share your favorite book, please leave that in the comments as well, because there's so much out there that just knowing that there's a book that somebody else liked, I always personally look at it and see, well, if that's a good fit for me or not. So please give us
Yeah.
your suggestions, right?
Do you want some suggestions before we wrap?
Yeah.
Sure.
I
One of
need
my
my next book.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is one that was just recently released. I haven't had a chance to fully dive into it, but it's called The Profitable Vet. Um, and David McCormick, who I know superficially, is one of the authors there. So I look forward to reading it. It's in my stack, and it's moving towards the top. There are 83 others there. Um,
Yeah.
but The Profitable Vet, no question, should be on everybody's reading list.
Yeah, with Karen Felstead, Nancy DeWitz, Leslie Manhulis, Dick Goebel, Sherry Everhart. Good collection
Yes.
It
of
is. It's
authors.
a bunch of antiques.
Well, we will say adieu on that note, and thank you everybody for listening. And we look forward to being in your podcast or social media box soon. Thank you.
Bye.